Your own thoughts are constantly lying to you.
They really are.
I mean, I want you to really let that sink in for a moment. We all have thousands of thoughts every single day, right? These running, nonstop narratives about our jobs, our friends, our self-worth.
Oh, yeah. Constant noise.
But here is the really unexpected contrast. The most critical, the loudest thoughts that just loop relentlessly in your head after, say, an awkward meeting or a simple mistake, they're usually entirely false.
Completely false.
Yeah, they are fiction masquerading as fact. So what actually happens to your life, to your anxiety levels, to your daily joy, when you finally stop believing the lies your own mind is telling you?
It's a phenomenal question. And today, we're going to give you the exact blueprint to answer it. In the next hour, you will learn exactly how to master negative thoughts and break those exhausting negative spirals, while also, simultaneously mastering high-level English vocabulary.
Which is why we're all here.
Exactly. We are going to cover 7 crucial steps, 5 complex phrasal verbs, and 3 daily habits. That is a total of 15 important learning points to transform your mindset and your English fluency today.
Welcome to Everyday English Flow. Daily English practice, natural speaking, and effortless listening flow. If you'd like to support our work, please like and subscribe. It helps us to keep creating high-quality content and bring you even better lessons in the future. Your support truly makes a difference.
We know exactly why you are here with us today. You are someone who wants to grow, both intellectually and linguistically.
Right, you want to understand these high-level psychological concepts.
Yes, but you also want to express those concepts in fluent advanced English. So we have a firm rule for today's deep dive. Whenever we explain a new word or phrase, I want you to say it out loud, wherever you are. Seriously, whether you are driving, cooking, or walking the dog, speak up. Active practice is how fluency is built.
Consider us your personal guides today. We are the information givers sharing a really powerful psychological framework to completely rewire how you handle negativity.
It's going to be transformative.
Okay, so let's unpack this. If our thoughts are constantly lying to us,
Yeah.
I mean, the immediate problem is that we identify so closely with them. Like when I have a thought that says, I am a failure, I don't see it as a passing idea. I see it as a fundamental truth about who I am.
That is the core illusion right there.
So how do we break that illusion?
You have to start with a really profound psychological and honestly spiritual truth. You are not your thoughts.
Right.
Your thoughts are just visitors. They are just noise. To begin untangling this, you have to recognize and acknowledge the thought as a completely separate entity from yourself.
Okay, I mean, that sounds great on a bumper sticker. You are not your thoughts.
Sure, it sounds easy.
But when you are in the middle of a terrible day and your chest is tight and your brain is spiraling, it is incredibly difficult to separate yourself from that internal narrative. Why is it so hard for us to just step back?
Because of how our brains have evolved. Let's look at the neuroscience for a second. Deep inside your brain, you have this almond-shaped cluster of neurons called the amygdala.
The amygdala.
Right. This is your brain's emotional fire alarm. From an evolutionary perspective, the amygdala's primary job was just to keep you alive. If a saber-toothed tiger jumped out of the bushes, your amygdala would instantly flood your body with adrenaline and cortisol so you could fight or run away.
Right, but there are no saber-toothed tigers in modern office buildings.
Exactly. But the amygdala doesn't know that.
It doesn't.
No, it cannot tell the difference between a physical threat to your life and a socially stressful situation, like a harsh email from your boss.
Wow. Okay.
So when you get that negative email, your amygdala sounds the fire alarm. You feel physically overwhelmed by negativity. But here's the secret. Simply labeling the emotion, literally saying to yourself, I am experiencing a negative thought, actually activates a totally different part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex.
And the prefrontal cortex is the logical, rational part of the brain right behind your forehead, right?
Precisely. It is the sophisticated problem-solving center. And neurological scans show that when the prefrontal cortex turns on through the act of labeling, it literally sends inhibitory signals to the amygdala.
So it calms it down.
It acts like a cooling system for that fire alarm, physically reducing your emotional overwhelm. By saying, I am having a thought, you are literally changing the blood flow in your brain.
Here's where it gets really interesting, and I have a modern analogy for this that I think will help you Visualize what is happening. Think of your negative thoughts like pop-up ads on a computer.
Oh, I love this analogy.
Right, you were just trying to browse the internet, trying to read an article, and suddenly a giant annoying ad pops up on your screen. It is flashy, it is loud, and it is demanding your attention.
That is a fantastic comparison. And to take it a step further, think about how targeted internet ads work. They use cookies based on your past browsing history, right?
Oh, that is so true. If you were looking at running shoes yesterday, you get ads for running shoes today.
Your brain does the exact same thing. It uses the cookies of your past experiences and traumas. If you had a highly critical teacher when you're 10 years old, your brain might serve you a targeted pop-up ad saying, "You aren't smart enough," right before a big presentation.
Oh, wow.
The brain is just surfacing old data.
So what happens if you click on that mental pop-up ad?
Well, what happens on a computer?
You get a virus, or, you get taken down a rabbit hole to a terrible website you never intended to visit. You get lost in it.
Exactly.
When a negative thought pops up in your mind, you don't want to double-click on it. You don't want to fill out the form, give in your credit card information, and engage with it. You just need to hover your mental mouse over the top corner and click the X.
Exactly. Just click the X. You are simply acknowledging the ad exists, but you are refusing to engage with its content. This psychological distancing, it reminds me of a classic Zen story.
I love those. Let's hear it.
Two monks are sitting peacefully on a hillside, watching the sky. Suddenly, dark, heavy clouds roll in. The first monk panics, points at the sky, and cries out, "It's a bad omen! This means disaster is coming." The second monk just looks up calmly, sips his tea, and says, "Clouds come and go."
Clouds come and go.
Hey.
I mean, the external reality didn't change at all. The clouds were exactly the same for both monks.
Exactly the same.
The only difference was their internal reaction.
Precisely. The first monk became the cloud. He let it dictate his entire emotional state. The second monk simply observed the cloud as a temporary visitor passing through the sky of his awareness.
I want you to start putting this into practice immediately with a specific daily habit.
Yes, actionable steps.
Starting today, I want you to set 3 thought alert reminders on your phone. One in the morning, one at midday, and one in the evening. When that alarm goes off, just pause for 30 seconds. Scan your mind. If you catch a negative thought, I want you to verbally label it. Say out loud, "I'm having a negative thought about," and fill in the blank.
Notice the phrasing there. You aren't saying, "I am an anxious person."
Exactly. You're saying, "I am having an anxious thought." It creates that crucial distance.
And while we are talking about these unwelcome pop-up thoughts, this naturally brings us to our first major C1 level vocabulary word for today. Intrusive. Think about the imagery of that word. It comes from the concept of an intruder, someone breaking into your house uninvited.
Let's really break this down for our learners. Intrusive. I mean, you can feel the pushiness in the word itself.
You really can. Something that is intrusive forces its way into your space or your mind without an invitation. It disrupts your peace. It doesn't knock on the door. It kicks the door down. So in psychology, we constantly talk about intrusive thoughts. These are sudden, involuntary, and often highly negative thoughts that just push their way into your conscious awareness.
Let's give you a chance to build some muscle memory with this vocabulary. Wherever you are right now, I want you to practice the pronunciation and the context. Repeat this sentence out loud with feeling. She struggled to focus on her work because of intrusive thoughts about the upcoming presentation. Go ahead, your turn. Say it out loud.
Excellent. Now, consider the subtle nuances. What is the difference between something being intrusive and something just being annoying?
That's a great distinction. I'd say an annoying thought might be trying to remember where you left your keys. It's frustrating, but it's passive.
Right.
An intrusive thought is aggressive. It feels like an active invasion of your mental privacy.
Exactly. And the best way to handle an intrusive thought is to pair it with our first phrasal verb of this deep dive. Pass through.
Pass through. To pass through somewhere means to move in and out of a place without stopping, without setting up camp, without staying there permanently.
Yes. Think about driving on a highway. You might drive through a small town on your way to a major city. You don't buy a house in that small town, you are just passing through. Psychologically, this is exactly how we must treat intrusive thoughts.
Let's practice this one. Try this sentence out loud. The negative thoughts just pass through your mind like clouds in the sky. Now let's try an everyday travel example to really cement the meaning. We aren't staying in London for the week, we are just passing through. Your turn. Say it with confidence.
Beautiful. So we have established the foundational skill. recognizing that intrusive thoughts are simply temporary visitors passing through the prefrontal cortex. We are just observing them. We aren't clicking the pop-up ad.
Okay, so I am staring at the pop-up ad. I have acknowledged it. But what do I do when clicking the X doesn't work?
It happens to all of us.
Right. What happens when a thought refuses to leave?
Yeah.
The ones that just loop and loop and loop until you feel sick to your stomach.
That is when passive observation is no longer enough. You have to shift into active confrontation. You have to put the thought on trial. But before we step into the courtroom of the mind, let's take a quick 10-minute check-in.
Yes. If you are finding this breakdown helpful, please take a second right now to like, share, and subscribe. It tells the algorithm that this is valuable, and it helps us keep bringing you these highly detailed deep dives every single week.
All right, let's address your question. What do we do when the thought is stubborn? We move to the next phase, which is challenging your thoughts.
I have to push back a little here because I think a lot of people struggle with this exact moment.
Oh.
It is very easy to sit in a calm room and say, let the cloud pass.
Very easy.
But what if the thought feels incredibly, undeniably real? Let's say I have a massive project due tomorrow. My company's relying on me, and my brain is screaming, "You are prepared. You are going to fail and lose your job." That doesn't feel like a passing cloud. That feels like a solid wall crashing down on me.
That is a very valid, very human challenge. And when the physiological response is that strong, when your heart is pounding and your palms are sweating, the thought feels like absolute reality. This is where we lean heavily on the principles of cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT.
Right.
You have to interrupt the panic and ask yourself a highly analytical question. Is this a fact, or is it just a fear?
A fact or a fear. That is such a powerful filter.
Negativity and anxiety absolutely thrive on blind acceptance. They grow like mold in the dark. When you don't turn the lights on, when you don't fight back, the anxiety assumes it has won. You have to demand proof.
So we essentially have to become a lawyer in our own mind.
Precisely. I want you to imagine your mind as a courtroom. Right now, your inner critic, that voice telling you that you will fail and lose your job, is the opposing lawyer. And right now, that opposing lawyer is winning every single case. Do you know why?
Because I'm not providing a defense.
Right.
I'm just sitting at the defendant's table with my head down, agreeing with the charges.
Exactly. You are accepting their accusations without a single fight. If the inner critic stands up in the courtroom and says, "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this person is terrible at their job," you just nod and say, "I guess you're right. Lock me up."
You would never do that in a real court of law.
Never.
If someone accused you of a crime you didn't commit, you would demand evidence. You would hire the best defense attorney you could find. You would say, "Where's the proof that I am terrible at my job? Let's look at the actual records. I got a stellar performance review last month. I helped a colleague solve a major problem yesterday. I have been promoted twice in 3 years."
That is exactly how CBT works. You systematically present the counter-evidence. A thought is innocent of being true until proven guilty by actual facts. You simply do not accept a thought that has no evidence backing it up. We call these unsupported thoughts cognitive distortions.
Cognitive distortions,
Yeah.
like what, for example?
Things like catastrophizing, which is what you did in your example. You went from, "I have a big project," straight to, "I'm going to lose my job and end up homeless." That is a massive distortion.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Another is mind reading, where you assume your boss hates you because they didn't smile at you in the hallway, completely ignoring the fact that they might just have a headache. The inner lawyer's job is to catch these distortions and object to them. Objection. The prosecution is mind reading without evidence.
That is brilliant. So here is your next daily habit to build this mental muscle, the Daily Thought Challenge. Each evening, sit down with a piece of paper. I want you to write down one specific negative thought you had that day. Then, I want you to channel your inner lawyer. Challenge it with hard evidence. Write down the facts that contradict the fear. Finally, rewrite the original thought into an empowering, strictly factual statement.
This concept of being a lawyer for yourself, of defending your own worth, is the perfect bridge to our second phrasal verb for today. Stand up for.
To stand up for. This is such a fundamental phrase in conversational English. To stand up for someone or something means to defend them, to advocate for them, to support them fiercely, especially when they're being unfairly criticized or attacked.
Yes. It conjures the image of physically rising from a chair to block an attack. It is time to practice speaking again. Channel that inner lawyer. Repeat this sentence out loud with conviction. You need to stand up for yourself against your own inner critic. Let's try another real-world workplace example. She stood up for her colleague during the meeting when he was being unfairly blamed. Go ahead, say it out loud.
Awesome. When you stand up for yourself internally, you fundamentally change the power dynamic of your own mind. The inner critic realizes it can't just bully you anymore.
Yeah.
But here is the next logical problem.
Okay, what is it?
After you defeat those false, catastrophizing thoughts in the courtroom of your mind, you're still left with the reality of what actually happened.
Exactly. The trial clears away the lies, but it leaves you with the bare facts.
Right. So let's say you didn't lose your job, but you did make a small mistake on the project. Or let's say a real, genuinely frustrating event happened. How do we process that reality without spiraling back into negativity? We have to rewrite the story of the event itself.
And that leads us to the power of perspective, or reframing. There is a famous quote from the late psychologist and author Dr. Wayne Dyer that perfectly encapsulates this entire concept. He said, "When we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change."
When we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. Okay, let's unpack this with a really common, highly relatable scenario.
Go for it.
The dreaded traffic example.
Everyone's favorite trigger.
Exactly. Picture this. You are driving to work. You have your coffee. You are listening to this deep dive, minding your own business. Suddenly, an aggressive driver swerves into your lane and completely cuts you off. You have to slam on the brakes so hard your seatbelt locks, your coffee spills, your heart rate violently spikes. You get to the office, and for the next 3 hours, you complain to every single coworker who will listen about this absolute maniac who ruined your morning.
We have all lived that exact scenario. The physiological response, the adrenaline, lasts for maybe 90 seconds, but the psychological narrative lasts for hours. What is the true cost of that narrative?
The cost is your entire day. You have allowed a 3-second interaction with a stranger to dictate your mood, your productivity, and your interactions with everyone else for the next 8 hours. But what if we deliberately reframe it?
How would you reframe that?
Well, what did you miss while you were fuming with anger and gripping the steering wheel? You missed the fact that before you got in the car, the barista at the coffee shop gave you a warm, genuine smile. You missed the fact that your car's brakes worked perfectly and your reflexes were sharp enough that you didn't actually get into an accident.
Right.
You missed the fundamental, underlying fact that despite the scare, you still arrived at work safely with your health intact.
This is the absolute essence of reframing. We are not changing the facts of the event, we are changing the lens through which we view them. Two people can face the exact same severe storm.
Okay.
One person looks at the aftermath, sees the broken branches in the mud, and sees only destruction, loss, and victimhood. The other person looks at the exact same broken branches and sees a cleared path, an opportunity for renewal, a chance to rebuild something better. The storm was the same. The perspective dictated the reality.
I think we need to pause here and have a real debate about this because I can hear people listening right now rolling their eyes.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
I have to push back hard. Isn't this just a psychological trick? Isn't reframing just a polite word for toxic positivity? If I get fired, or my dog dies, or I get diagnosed with an illness, reframing that as, oh, this is actually a wonderful opportunity for growth, feels completely unhinged. It feels like living in denial.
I'm so glad you brought this up because confusing reframing with toxic positivity is the #1 reason people abandon this practice. Let's draw a very thick, clear line between the two.
Please do.
Toxic positivity is denial. Toxic positivity is saying, I just got into a car crash, but everything is awesome, good vibes only. It forces you to suppress genuine grief, anger, or fear, which is deeply unhealthy and psychologically damaging.
So how is reframing different?
Reframing is conscious perspective shifting that includes the negative reality but refuses to let it be the entire reality. Reframing says, that car crash was terrifying, I am shaken up, and dealing with the insurance company is going to be incredibly frustrating. However, I am profoundly grateful that I wasn't severely injured, and I know I have the capacity to handle this inconvenience.
I see.
Do you see the difference? Toxic positivity shrinks your reality to only the good. Reframing expands your reality to include both the hardship and your ability to overcome it.
That is a massive distinction. You are acknowledging the pain, but you aren't letting the pain write the conclusion of the story.
Exactly. This conscious shifting, this refusal to remain a helpless victim of circumstance, is what builds true psychological toughness over time.
And that psychological toughness brings us perfectly to our next C1 vocabulary word. Resilience. Let's spell it, because the pronunciation can be tricky with those vowels. R-E-S-I-L-I-E-N-C-E. Resilience.
Resilience is a beautiful word. In physics and material science, resilience is the capacity of a material to absorb energy when it is deformed elastically, and then upon unloading to have this energy recovered. Put simply, it is elasticity.
So in psychology, it means mental elasticity.
Exactly. When life bends you, when tragedy or stress deforms your daily existence, resilience is your ability to bounce back to your original shape. Or perhaps because of the lessons learned, an even stronger shape. It is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties.
Let's practice this vital C1 word. Try to feel the strength in the word as you say it. Repeat after me. Practicing reframing every day significantly improves your emotional resilience. Excellent. Let's try another one, maybe in a broader context. The community showed incredible resilience after the natural disaster destroyed their town. Your turn. Speak up.
Building that kind of resilience doesn't happen by accident. It requires deliberate daily practice. Which brings us to a fantastic daily habit, the reframing jar.
I love this one because it makes an abstract psychological concept highly tangible. Here's how you do it. Every single night, get a physical jar, a mason jar, a glass bowl, whatever you have. Take a small slip of paper and write down one negative or frustrating event from your day. Let's say, my boss criticized my report in front of the team.
That hurts. The natural inclination is to ruminate on that shame all night.
Right. But before you are allowed to fold that paper and put it in the jar, you must intentionally reframe it in a neutral or positive light on the back of the paper. So you flip it over and write, the feedback was harsh, but it highlighted a blind spot in my data analysis that I can now fix, making me a sharper analyst.
That is a perfect reframe. It acknowledges the harshness, but pivots to the utility of the event.
Then you drop it in the jar. If you do this every night over weeks and months, you are literally rewiring your brain's neural pathways. You are training your brain to naturally seek out the positive perspective in real time without needing the jar eventually.
Before we move on to the next phase of our framework, we need to cover the phrasal verb from your traffic story earlier. Cut off. This is our third phrasal verb today. C-U-T-O-F-F. Cut off.
Cut off has quite a few meanings in English, but let's focus on the two most common, everyday conversational uses. In a driving context, to cut someone off means to suddenly and aggressively drive your vehicle into the lane directly in front of another vehicle, forcing them to brake sharply to avoid an accident.
And the second meaning is in a conversational context. To cut someone off means to rudely interrupt them before they have finished speaking, essentially stopping the flow of their words.
Let's practice both contexts so you can feel the difference. Speak out loud. Let's do the driving one first. A terrible driver cut me off on the highway this morning and I spilled my coffee. Great. Now, the conversational context, which you can use in meetings. Please do not cut me off when I'm trying to explain my point. Say it with confidence. Set that boundary.
Fantastic. All right, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture of what we are trying to achieve. To be able to successfully reframe a situation like getting cut off in traffic or getting criticized by a boss, you have to catch the negative thought in the exact moment it happens. You have to intersect it.
But that is incredibly difficult. Most of the time, by the time I realize I'm having a negative spiral, I'm already 20 minutes deep into it. My mind is moving at 100 miles per hour.
Exactly. You cannot intercept a thought if you are moving too fast. You need brakes. And that brings us to the next crucial mechanism, which is mindfulness and meditation.
Okay, yes.
Research from experts like Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, who pioneered mindfulness-based stress reduction, has repeatedly proven that even very short, consistent mindfulness practices physically alter the brain.
Physically alter it.
Yes. They significantly reduce symptoms of anxiety and depression by thickening the prefrontal cortex and shrinking the amygdala.
I think people hear the word meditation and they immediately check out. They picture having to sit cross-legged on a silent mountain for 3 hours, chanting, while having absolutely zero thoughts.
Which is a complete myth. Meditation is simply the practice of returning your focus to a single anchor, usually your breath. Every time your mind wanders and you bring it back, that is one rep for your brain, like lifting a weight in the gym.
I want to give another analogy to make this super practical. Think of your mind like an incredibly powerful, incredibly fast sports car.
I like where this is going.
If you are driving this sports car incredibly fast down a narrow, winding mountain road and a boulder suddenly falls into your path, that boulder representing a sudden, intrusive negative thought, what happens?
Because of your speed and momentum, your reaction time is zero. You crash straight into the boulder.
Exactly. You have a catastrophic collision. You lash out at your partner, you send an angry email, you spiral into panic. But if you are driving that same car at a manageable, slower speed, you give yourself a gap. You give yourself the time and the physical space to smoothly steer around the obstacle. Slowing down your breath physically slows down the car of your mind. It gives you the space to avoid a collision with your own negativity.
The biology behind this is fascinating. When you take a slow, deep breath, particularly focusing on a long exhale, you stimulate the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve runs from your brain down through your body, and it acts as the master control switch for your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest state.
Wow, okay.
It physically lowers your heart rate. It is a biological brake pedal.
That ability to steer around the obstacle in our car analogy brings up a fantastic, slightly tricky C1 level word related to driving, skill, and evasion. Maneuver. Let's spell this one carefully because the American and British spellings differ, but we will use the common American spelling here. M-A-N-E-U-V-E-R. Maneuver.
Maneuver. It means a movement or a series of moves requiring skill, care, and precision. It implies agility, whether physical or mental.
Let's practice this advanced word. Pay attention to the smooth sound of it. Repeat after me. If you are driving too fast, it is impossible to maneuver around the obstacles. Let's try one more, this time in a business context. The company had to execute a complex financial maneuver to avoid bankruptcy. Say it out loud.
Slowing down through breath work gives your mind the space to maneuver around negativity. So how do we practically build these breaks?
Your daily habit for this step requires almost zero effort, but yields massive results. I want you to set a 5-minute timer every single day to focus only on your breathing. That's it, 5 minutes. You can do it sitting in your parked car before you go into the grocery store. Plus, I want you to stop for just 1 minute every single hour of your workday to breathe deeply. Set an hourly chime on your watch. When it chimes, take 3 deep breaths.
When you consistently apply these breaks, you learn not to grip your thoughts so tightly. You learn to let things slide, which introduces our fourth phrasal verb, hold on to. H-O-L-D-O-N-T-O. Hold on to.
To hold on to something literally means to keep it in your grasp, to grasp it tightly, or to refuse to let it go or fall. We often use this regarding physical objects like holding onto a railing. But in psychological and conversational English, it is incredibly common when talking about emotions, grudges, or past trauma.
Exactly. It implies a stubbornness, a refusal to release something that might be hurting you. Let's practice letting go of what we hold on to. Repeat out loud. Let the negative thoughts pass. Do not hold on to them. Now let's use it to describe a heavy emotional burden. He has been holding on to that anger for years, and it is silently destroying him. Your turn. Let it go and speak up.
So if we're letting go of anger, if we are successfully clearing out all these negative thoughts, reframing them and not holding on to them, it logically leaves a kind of empty space in our minds, right?
Yes. And nature absolutely abhors a vacuum. Think of your mind like a garden. If you spend all your time pulling out the weeds, the negative thoughts, but you don't deliberately plant any flowers, what is going to happen?
The weeds are just going to grow right back in the empty soil.
Exactly. You have cleared the space, but now you have to actively fill that empty space with joy. And simultaneously, you have to prepare the physical soil, your physical body, to handle the ongoing stress of daily life.
That perfectly transitions us to the next 2 pieces of our framework, which work in tandem. Engaging in joyful activities, and looking after your temple, your physical body. Let's start with joy, because I think modern society has a deeply dysfunctional relationship with joy. We view it as a luxury. We view it as an indulgence that you only get to experience on a 2-week vacation once a year or after all the chores are done.
Which is completely backward. Joy is essential mental maintenance. We are so hyper-focused on productivity, optimization, and grinding that we actually feel guilty for doing things just because they make us happy.
We feel like we're wasting time if it isn't moving us toward a goal.
But engaging in enjoyable activities actually lowers depressive symptoms significantly by regulating dopamine and serotonin levels. And this connects directly to the physical body. Let's look at the statistics. Regular cardiovascular exercise reduces depressive symptoms by up to 30%. 30%.
Wait, 30%? That is as effective as many pharmaceutical interventions. Why is that? What is actually happening in the brain when we run or swim or lift weights?
It's not magic, it's neurochemical. When you engage in sustained exercise, your brain releases a protein called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as high-grade fertilizer for your brain.
Fertilizer for the brain, I love that.
It literally stimulates neuroplasticity, helping to grow new neurons and synapses, particularly in the hippocampus, which is the area of the brain responsible for memory and emotional regulation. In chronically stressed or depressed individuals, the hippocampus actually physically shrinks. Exercise helps rebuild it.
That is massive. So exercise isn't just about getting a nice physique. It is literally repairing the structural integrity of your brain. Your mind and your body are not two separate, disconnected things. Your body is the biological vehicle that generates your mind. There is a great Zen master story that perfectly illustrates this holistic approach.
We are leaning heavily on the Zen masters today, but their wisdom is timeless. Please, share it.
A young, eager student goes to an old, revered Zen master. The student asks, "Master, how do I attain true enlightenment? What is the profound secret?" The student is expecting some highly complex, esoteric meditation technique or some mystical chant. But the master simply looks at him and replies, "When hungry, eat. When tired, sleep. When sad, move."
It is brilliant in its simplicity. When tired, sleep. Caring for the basic physical needs of the body isn't secondary to spiritual or mental health. It is sacred. It is the absolute foundation. If you are sleeping 4 hours a night and eating garbage, no amount of cognitive reframing or mindfulness is going to save you from anxiety. Your nervous system is already frayed.
Exactly. So here are your concrete daily habits for these steps. First, schedule a daily joy episode. Spend 15 minutes a day doing something you genuinely, purely love with zero productive value. Paint a terrible picture, dance in your kitchen to loud music, garden, read a trashy fiction novel. Protect that 15 minutes like it's a meeting with your most important client.
And for the physical temple,
Simple, non-negotiable baselines. Go for a 20-minute walk outside every single day. Drink 8 glasses of water. And guard your 7 to 8 hours of sleep fiercely.
it sounds so simple. Walk, sleep, drink water. But consistency is where people inevitably fail. And here's the psychological trap. When they miss one day of exercise or they stay up too late watching TV, they don't just say, "Oops, I'll do better tomorrow." They become highly self-critical. They call themselves lazy and undisciplined, which spikes their cortisol, which starts the negative thought loop all over again.
It's a self-sabotaging cycle. Which brings us to our fifth and final phrasal verb of this deep dive, beat up on oneself. Or simply, beat oneself up, B-E-A-T-U-P, beat up.
Literally, to beat someone up means to physically attack them, to punch and kick them. But figuratively, in psychology and everyday conversational English, to beat yourself up means to blame or criticize yourself excessively, mercilessly for a mistake or a perceived failure.
It is the ultimate act of the inner critic we talked about earlier. You are essentially acting as both the bully and the victim in your own mind.
Let's practice this incredibly natural, native-sounding phrasal verb. Think about a time you were too hard on yourself. Repeat out loud. If you miss a day of exercise, do not beat yourself up over it. Let's try another one, maybe talking about a friend. She is always beating herself up for every tiny mistake she makes at work. She needs to give herself a break. Go ahead, practice saying it.
Great job. Remember, give yourself grace. You are human. So we've done a lot of work today. We've built up our internal defenses through mindfulness. We've learned to reframe. We've injected joy, and we've fortified our physical health. We have built a strong internal fortress. But what about external attacks? What happens when the negativity isn't coming from inside the house, but is being relentlessly blasted at us from the outside world?
That brings us to our final step, limiting exposure to negativity. We live in the information age, which practically means we are living in the age of constant, unyielding external stressors.
I have to play devil's advocate here.
Okay, what is it?
Shouldn't we stay informed about the world? Isn't ignoring the news and global events irresponsible? As citizens of the world, we can't just stick our heads in the sand and pretend bad things aren't happening, can we?
It is a very fair point, and it's a balance everyone struggles to strike. But it is not about ignoring the world. It is about how we consume information and the biological toll that consumption takes. Think about how humanity consumed news for decades. In the past, we actively sought out the news. You woke up, you walked down the driveway, you picked up the physical newspaper, you sat at your kitchen table, and you read it while drinking coffee. You made a conscious decision, and you prepared your mind to receive information.
Right. You had an intention. You were braced for it.
Exactly. But now, the paradigm has completely flipped. Now the news finds us.
The news finds us. That gives me chills. It's so true.
You pick up your smartphone simply to text your mother happy birthday. You are in a relaxed, happy state of mind. But before you can even open the messaging app, your lock screen hits you with a push notification about a horrific global tragedy, a natural disaster, or a violent political crisis. Your brain is instantly hijacked from a state of connection to a state of global panic. You are not mentally primed for that information.
That is a profound distinction. The orienting response of our brain is hijacked. When that notification buzzes, our brain releases noradrenaline because it thinks a threat is nearby. And it's draining because our Paleolithic brains are simply not wired to process the trauma, tragedy, and outrage of 8 billion people, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We were built to care about a tribe of maybe 150 people.
The psychological statistics on this are deeply alarming. Recent studies show that over 56% of adults report significantly higher, unmanageable stress levels directly tied to constant media and news consumption. We are overloading our nervous systems, keeping ourselves in a chronic, low-grade state of fight or flight.
I read a quote once. I know we're heavy on the Zen quotes today, but they just fit this topic so perfectly. Someone asked a renowned Zen master how he manages to remain so serene and at peace in such a chaotic, unpredictable, and often violent world. His reply was stunning in its simplicity. I simply don't argue with reality.
What a profound, heavy statement. I don't argue with reality.
Think about it. Most of our mental tension, most of our suffering comes from arguing with what is. It comes from scrolling through the news and screaming internally, this shouldn't be happening. People shouldn't act this way. The world shouldn't be like this. We argue with the reality of the moment, which changes nothing but destroys our own peace. Accepting reality doesn't mean you approve of it. It just means you stop wasting energy denying it, so you can calmly figure out how to navigate it or improve it.
So, how do we put this boundary into practice? How do we stop the world from intruding on our peace?
Your habit for this final step is a strict digital diet. Today, starting the moment this deep dive ends, I want you to take a strict 24-hour media detox. No news websites, no scrolling social media feeds, no political commentary, just for 24 hours. I want you to observe how much lighter your mind feels, how much more present you are with your family or your work. Then, going forward, build what I call a positivity shield.
How does the positivity shield work?
You curate your mental environment. You check the news only once daily, at a specific planned time, maybe at noon, never right before bed. You aggressively unfollow or mute social media accounts that make you feel anxious, envious, or outraged. You protect your attention because your attention is your most valuable asset.
Curating your mental environment is the final crucial piece of mastering your negative thoughts. You wouldn't let someone walk into your living room and dump garbage on your rug, so why do you let algorithms dump digital garbage into your brain?
Exactly. Okay, we have covered an immense amount of ground today. We have traversed the 7 steps to mastering your mind. Let's recap them quickly. First, recognize the thoughts as passing clouds, not permanent truths. Second, put the stubborn thoughts on trial like an inner lawyer. Third, consciously reframe the narrative to build resilience. Fourth, use mindfulness and breath as the brakes for your fast-moving mind. Fifth, actively engage in daily joy. Sixth, protect and nourish your physical temple. And seventh, curate your digital diet to limit external negativity.
It is a comprehensive framework, but before we wrap up, we promised you a bonus insight.
We did, and this bonus insight is the perfect bow to tie everything together.
This insight comes from the fascinating, groundbreaking research of Dr. Daniel Amen. He is a highly renowned psychiatrist and brain disorder specialist who uses brain SPECT imaging to look at blood flow and activity patterns. Over his career, he has looked at the brain scans of over 1,000 convicted felons and over 100 murderers.
Let me guess. Because of their behavior, because they were felons, he found that their amygdalas were completely overactive or their prefrontal cortexes were shut down. What did the scans actually show?
Even more foundational than that, he found that their brains were literally physically damaged. They had traumatic brain injuries, toxic exposure, or severe structural abnormalities. The profound takeaway here is that a healthy mind isn't just some abstract philosophical concept about thinking happy thoughts. It literally, biologically starts with the physical health of your brain tissue. Your brain is a physical organ, exactly like your heart, your liver, or your lungs.
Oh, wow. So all these physical things we talked about, sleeping 7 to 8 hours, drinking water, going for a 20-minute walk, eating well, they aren't just nice lifestyle choices. They are physical maintenance.
Yeah.
They are literally repairing and optimizing the physical organ that generates your thoughts. If you want better, healthier thoughts, you fundamentally need a healthier, physically robust brain.
Precisely. It grounds everything we discussed today, all the psychology, the Zen philosophy, the CBT, in absolute undeniable biological reality. You cannot outthink a sick brain. You have to care for the hardware if you want the software to run smoothly.
This has been an incredibly deep, expansive, and I hope life-changing journey today. We have covered the complex psychology of thought, advanced B2 and C1 English vocabulary, and highly actionable daily habits. But listening is only half the battle. Action is where transformation happens. To prove to yourself that you are committed to this learning journey, that you are going to take action, I want you to go to the comments right now and type the specific phrase. Type, "I am consistent" in the comment box.
Let us know you made it this far and that you are doing the work. We also want your feedback. Please write your feedback and tell us which kind of topic do you want in the next video. What psychological concepts or language skills should we explore next?
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
If you enjoyed this podcast, there are many more podcasts on my channel. Go check them out. Focus on language learning, speaking, and listening. Immerse yourself in the flow of the language.
Keep practicing those phrasal verbs. Keep challenging those negative thoughts in your mental courtroom, and we will see you in the next deep dive. But remember, the next time you hear that loud, aggressive inner voice telling you that you aren't good enough or that you are going to fail, just picture that annoying, flashing computer pop-up ad. Are you going to double-click it and infect your day with a virus? Or are you going to take a breath, find the X, and close it down? The choice, as always, is entirely yours.